Hey, what's up, guys? If you haven't watched it yet, you might want to go watch this morning's video. I'll make a sort of too long don't watch for you. The Brooklyn Dodgers came alive against the National League leading Pirates, scoring 17 runs in an absolute blowout. The Dodgers are now 6.5 games out of first place at 12-11, and they've won 5 in a row. This is going to be a big series as we see if the Dodgers can close some ground with the Pirates. And the Giants, of course, are in second place, 2 games out, and you will see in 2 days the game between the Reds and the Giants. So we'll see how that one works out as well. The Dodgers now have their runs scored up to 118, and there is that equals their runs allowed thanks to that 17-run outburst. Now, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about because this happens to all of us in replays, and it's one of these things that you will especially feel if you actually go through and play every game. You will get blowouts. The question is, what do you do? How do you survive them? Does your is the way that you play the game change at all? Do you have a different type of approach to playing the game? Do you have a different type of approach to your in-game strategy and so on? So I'll show you here what's going on. That wasn't actually, today's game was not the only blowout that we've had. I'll show you the one that we had before then. This happened last night. This is so small, I know you can't see it. I'm going to have to just tell you about it. The Senators went over to Detroit and absolutely manhandled the Tigers. They won this game 23-5. And I mean, this one was like really, really, really a bloodbath. Virgil Trucks got a single out in the first inning before I had to take him out because he gave up 7 earned runs. And it just got worse and worse and worse from there. This one is so remarkable that I'm going to end up having to write about it. The Senators ended up with 20 hits and 23 runs. Pretty good for a team that, if memory serves well, was actually the worst hitting team in the American League. And it doesn't say a lot of nice things about how the Tigers pitching has been. This is a problem. Giving up 23 runs to the 1949 Senators is not something that you necessarily want to see happen. Now, the wind was blowing out in that game to right field, but apparently was only blowing out for one team. Detroit did score 5 runs, but 3 of those came in the bottom of the 9th inning, and the reason why is because Ray Scarborough ended up throwing a complete game, and that included walking 1, 2, 3 in the 9th inning and giving up 1, 2, 3 singles as well. And anyway, it was pretty ugly. It was 23-2 going into the 9th inning, so the Tigers made it somewhat respectable. In the Dodgers game that you just watched, Brooklyn scored 5 in the first, and then 6 in the 6th, and then a whole bunch of runs in between to score their 17. And yeah, that was another one that was a little bit ugly. One thing to note, so there's not too much interesting about the Pirates game, but with this Senators-Tigers game, the Detroit Tigers did turn 4 double plays, which is the one good thing that happened to them in the game. Other than that, it was a real ugly game. And in fact, it wasn't for those 4 double plays, Washington could have been flirting with the actual record. Now, I was a little bit curious, so I went ahead and took a look. This comes from StatHead. This is the part of baseball reference that you can pay for to do certain types of searches. This is the easiest way to come up with this information. Of course, you can't see this until I hit screen. There we go. My head goes to the other side of the screen when I do that. These are the highest number of runs scored in a single game in Washington Senators history, right? I did a search from 1901 to 1961, so the original Senators, not the ones that came about after the Twins moved away. And their biggest margin of victory, I don't know if margin of victory is correct, their biggest number of runs scored in a single game was actually 21 against the Tigers, of all teams, at home in 1929. They also scored 20 against the Browns in 1943. Against the Tigers again in 25, against the Indians in 1923, against the Athletics in 1915, and then, of course, 20 against the Brewers in this 1901 game that I remember reading about before. We can actually take a quick look at that one. That one's a lot of fun. 20-8 after 7 innings that I think was called because of darkness. And Tully Sparks went 3 1/3 innings for Milwaukee, giving up 8 runs, only 2 of which were earned. And then Bert Husting came over and gave up 12 runs, only 1 of which was earned. This is because Milwaukee had 7 errors in that game. That's a real interesting one to look into. But anyway, I bring this up because this was really a remarkable game for the Washington Senators. Not quite as remarkable for the 49 Dodgers to score 17 in a game. I mean, you can kind of expect that, right? But for the 49 Washington Senators to score 23, I mean, that's really saying something, right? I mean, you really would have to, have like a total, full moon, total like apocalypse type experience to sort of see that happen. But then that brings up the big question of this, which is, what do you do when this happens in your game? I mean, how do you deal with this? How does this change what your strategies are, right? So like, I love to run. I probably steal more than I should. I like to bunt a lot. I do that more than I should. But I mean, if I'm down by 10 or up by 10, I'm not going to do any of that. If I'm down by 5, I'm not going to have the guys run. It doesn't make sense, right? Why play for one run when it doesn't make a difference, right? And so it's stuff like that I kind of want to ask. Is there something different that you do, like with your pitching staff? Is there something different that you would do? Do you like do a whole bunch of substitutions? So again, when we go back here to this view, again, it's really, really small, but you can see if you look close that I did put in all of the other players for the Tigers. I think everybody ended up showing up in this game, including almost the entire pitching staff. However, when the Dodgers were up 17-4 because the team hadn't been hitting well beforehand, I left everybody in and figured, no, we're going to leave these guys in and let them get their hits, see if we can turn them on again. A little bit of that superstition. I know the game doesn't work like that. You don't have to tell me, but, I play it like I'm a kid, right? And when you're a kid, that's what you think. Oh, they got their hits going. Let's see if we can keep the bats going. We don't want to spoil a good thing, right? So that's the question. Do you do stuff like that? Do you try to insist on keeping with what happened in real life? Or do you look at this and say, okay, this is nothing like real life. We're just going to throw out the rule book. We're going to do whatever it is that we want. Be interested to know what you do and how often you run into this sort of thing. It does make it frustrating if you're like me and you're playing through every single game, because like last night, it's like 9:30 at night and I'm kind of getting tired and I'm like, the score's 20-0. Mercy rule, and that's another one of these questions, right? Which is, should there be a mercy rule? There was a thread on APBA Between the Lines just the other day where a certain person, who I won't name, was asking whether teams that are down by 8 runs in the 8th inning shouldn't just down by 10 runs in the 8th inning, shouldn't just automatically be declared the loser and we just forfeit the rest of the game. Now, I'm opposed to that idea. I said, well, why don't you just use WPA and say if the winning probability is 99.9% or higher for one team, then we just call the game right there no matter what inning it is, right? It would have helped me in this case because when Washington was up 15-0, the chances of the Tigers coming back are 0. Nobody's ever overcome a 15-run deficit in a ball game. It's not going to happen, especially not by the 1949 Tigers. But there is a good point, to be made that, maybe it would be helpful with saving with some time and saving with wear and tear on the players and on the pitchers and stuff like that. I don't know. I say you started the game, you got to finish the game. That's the way that we play these, right? I don't care if it's on camera or not. If we started the game a certain way, we're going to end it that way. I'm not going to do any autoplay to the end of the game. I'm not going to do any cheating or anything like that. No, we play this the right way because this is a replay and we always do replays the right way. That's the way that I approach this. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are, though, and whether you think I'm doing it the right way or if I'm just kind of, being a weird guy about all this stuff. Love to hear what you have to say. Talk to you later. Bye.